بين الأقراص المتشابكة في تصميم متحف قطر الوطني فضاء يتلاعب بالأبعاد ويتواطأ فيه الزمان والمكان ليسافر بالزائر عبر الدهر دون أن يحسب للمسافة، فيجد نفسه محاطاً بأسرار عوالم منسية ومستقبل يحمل وعود الأمل.
وصف نوفال تصميمه باللعبة الجيومترية، حيث تتداخل المساحات في تناغم متناهٍ، صانعة أركان التجربة المعمارية وظيفة وجمالاً.
Thomas, now that you've shared the construction journey for the project, I want to ask you, what role did building information modeling play, or BIM in this case?
The BIM technology is playing a very big role because all parts of the project are designed in 3D. It's a 3D project. You cannot just cover it with floor plans and sections in vertical planes. That's a fact. All these parts are modeled in 3D. They needed to be built in the exact, precise geometry to perfectly fit into the spot where they belong. The main structure, the cladding, the MEP, the interiors, they all tend to follow three-dimensional locations, and you can only control what you are designing and whether it clashes with the different traits in 3D. On the right-hand side, you can see a 3D shot of the mechanical air ducts, how they intersect with the main structure and the cladding or the interior cladding, soffit cladding. So it is very, very complex, and therefore a few of the latest digital modeling technologies have been used. Mm-hmm. Talking about the quantities of the cladding only, there were 106,000 square meters of cladding area to be dealt with. We had more than 23,000 stubs, connections to the main structure, more than 7,700 nose fixings, for example. The almost 2,000 tons of secondary steel tonnage and almost 50 kilometer. 400,000 of these embeds and fixing points. The model upload only from our company to the entire BIM model was 700 gigabyte, broken down in 12,000 3D files, individual files to be uploaded, to be generated and uploaded. And it went along with 4,000 2D drawings for the orientation on site.
تمتد الهندسة المعقدة إلى الداخل لتخلق صالات عرض بانورامية صممت بخطة تحدد رحلة الزائر والتي تستغرق 2 ساعات من الزمن، بدءاً من قاعة الاستقبال ومروراً بالقصر القديم، وصولاً إلى 11 مساراً لقاعات العرض. بين مرويات تاريخية وصور أرشيفية وأعمال فنية. تسرد القاعات 11 تاريخ قطر سرداً زمنياً منذ البدايات الجيولوجية مروراً بالوجود البشري الأول والحياة في الصحراء والبحر وصولاً إلى الحاضر.
صمم متجر الهدايا من قبل كويتشي تكادا، استوديو معماري أسترالي اشتهر بتصاميم عضوية ومستوحاة من الطبيعة. Koichi, tell me, how were you commissioned to design the gift shop in the National Museum of Qatar?
We were invited to the Design Excellence competition. I believe it was 6 international designers. Mm-hmm. We were one of them. Interesting, when we received the email invitation, we in fact didn't believe. I thought this was some kind of scam, believe it or not. And just when we signed the confidentialities and understood that this was for the National Museum of Qatar, obviously we felt very privileged to participate in competitions. And, immediately we thought that learning process about the country, the culture, how we would approach in participating in these design competitions.
Was it your first time to be commissioned a project in the Middle East?
Yes, in fact, this was the first international competition we ever took part. To be honest, we really didn't know how to approach it. My practice was very much a young practice. I myself was mid-30s, learning about architecture, still very much a baby compared to all the experienced architects that equally participate in this competition. So we really took a bold approach, if you like, that we really wanted to show something that really celebrate the future, but very much respecting the past.
You just mentioned the fact that you had to respect the culture and the heritage and the history. Following that, what was your inspirational point here?
When we studied the National Museum of Qatar, the architectural design, we were very impressed. We never seen anything like it designed by Jean Nouvel and his team from Paris. We immediately understood the ambition and the vision that we would be participating. Mm-hmm. And from that, we learn about, the impact of rapid change and how we can contribute in such a way that the heritage meets innovation. So this was one of the very important vision that was in the brief. So we looked to the desert with much curiosities and found this, for instance, the Cave of Light, which became an inspiration for the gift shop. We kind of start studying the formation, how nature can build this wonderful space in the middle of the desert. And if you like, Qatar is very flat. But in this Cave of Light, it starts to reveal this three-dimensional space.
Tell me, how delicate and precise was it to deal with all these organic shapes that you've chosen to follow, especially using timber?
Association with timber was very important for Qatari because of the, in the past, the use of the ship called dhow made of wood. And this was one of the main ways to trade with the other country, North Africa, for instance. And this is very important, let's say, the means or the tools for the economy of Qatar. Well, my first impression was complexity. It's a very complex space. We really didn't even know where to start. The only way that I could orient myself was the sight line. So I could see, visually speaking, where I'm going, because I see the natural light. I see kind of end of the corridors, but in between is kind of in very complex desert rose inspired discs. We had these incredible windows that given to us. So we borrowed this natural light that Jean Nouvel designed and somehow trying to create the dialogue with what you see, but also within this complex shape and organically form timber design to create this cave-like environment. We need to essentially climatize the timbers that was brought in from outside the museum and to bringing into the temperature that eventually will be about 20 degrees plus minus. Outside is 50 degrees. And, the timber, of course, is the living materiality, so it expands and it shrinks and it cracks. We created over 70,000 pieces of three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, if you like. Each piece is unique. Claudio Devoto, the Italian master, the carpenter, Claudio and I had to really work out how to build these complex three-dimensional jigsaw puzzles out of timber. We rely on the computer system to understand how we put together. So what we did was that in a sheet of timber, we created essentially a manual to create the formation that nature would do it over thousands of years. We had to do it over 12 months, let's say. And imagine almost 300 stories of timber layers that goes on top of each other. Timber shrinks about 0.1 millimeters, but by the time you go to the end piece, you cannot fit the last piece. And there was an instance that, for instance, you start from the left to right, and then if you just put the timber in slightly the wrong position, by the time you come to the end, that was completely off the mark. Hence, you cannot stack the last piece. My first impression, I remember going into the space during a construction, was the smell of timber. Just like I remember from my childhood, being in the forest, being in the nature, touching the wood, and just like that, it kind of bring me back to the past.
Kouchi, you describe your experience in the Middle East and in Qatar in particular as something very unique and different. I was just wondering, would there be anything in particular you still take with you from that experience?
9 years is relatively a long span of project to get involved. But 9 years, we kept learning and discovering about a lot of other aspects, where we started, where we ended. Our knowledge and our kind of connection to the culture was at the completely different levels. And I wouldn't say I would ever become a local, but as an architect, we were really impressed that, there are a language just like music.
Working on it with a specialist multidisciplinary team, but also a multinationality team. So we had almost 15 staff from almost 15 different countries working in our team alone. We were working in 3 offices on it. The main office here in Stuttgart, our New York office, and the side office in Doha. And that was one of the most dominant challenges, because everyone on the client side, on the main contractor side, everyone was working in all corners of the world with staff from everywhere, with the architects from France and the main contractor from Korea, the BIM modeling managers were in California. So it was really a working all around the clock. And that was also the not only the challenge, but also the beauty of the project.
Straight lines are predictable. In nature, there are no straight lines. How do you translate the sentence in general throughout your designs?
I grew up in Japan, was very structured. I remember a lot of constraint that I experienced, just like drawing a line, you know. Yeah. And I remember in being in art class, there was figures, black and white figures, which then I had to fill in the color. And my temptation was go beyond that, because I wanted to explore not just being within the boundary, but beyond. And I remember the art teacher said, "No, that's not how you." And then I was shocked. And I obviously, you know, it's, in a cultural sense, I was used to conforming, but once I remember going into nature, there's no rules.
In architecture, you say that you learn the rules, then you bend those rules.
As an architect, we need to address the inherited the roots of the culture, the history, the past. And the way of doing it is to really bend the rules, because that's perhaps the most important value that I learned living in different countries, and you know, really respect tradition and cultural heritage of each country.
عن المتحف الوطني يقول نوفيل: رمزياً تستحضر عمارته الصحراء وبعدها الصامت والأبدي، ولكنها تستحضر أيضاً روح الحداثة والجرأة التي ظهرت بها وهزت ما بدا راسخاً.
سيبقى ذلك التصميم الراديكالي نصاً مرئياً وشاهداً على عصر أو عصور زينتها وردة الصحراء. إلى اللقاء.